So I'm Gahlord Dewald. I'm a web strategist. I do strategy work for businesses. And my Twitter handle is @Gahlord. So if you have questions while I'm talking, feel free to hit that on Twitter, and I'll get to it when I'm done talking. So I'm going to be talking about web analytics. So the title here is a little bit misleading because it says, what can you know about your fans? And since most of you are probably in government services and stuff, you probably need to talk to your legal department to find out what you can know about the people you're observing. So I work a lot with web analytics, and web analytics are about understanding human behavior online, like what people are doing online. Just so I can get a sense, how many of you have a web analytics tracking package on your website, like Google Analytics or Omniture or something like that? Okay, that's great. How many of you look at those reports? How many of you take action based on things you see in those reports? Okay, this is good. This is a great audience for this. So I'm going to start, even though a lot of you raised your hands all the way through my grueling questions there, I'm going to start at the beginning of thinking about web analytics and how it might relate to some of the things in the real-time web. So the first place to start when thinking about understanding your audience and what they're doing online is to also think about what are your own goals for doing anything online in the first place. So it's not about, do you want to use Twitter because you should be using Twitter, or Facebook because you should be using Facebook, or any of these particular channels, but start instead from what are your business goals, or what are your mission goals for communicating with the public, and being really clear about that. So sometimes people have goals related to disseminating information. You want to make sure you're getting information out. And other times you might have other specific goals. You need volunteers or things like that. And step one is always to clearly define what those are and what aspects of your web presence handle that particular objective. So if you want to get people to sign up to be volunteers or notified or that kind of thing, you might have a lead form where people fill in their name, and then you get a thank you page. That thank you, anyone who sees the thank you page has given you their information to be contacted. Once you've done something like that, then you can start to observe a lot of information about people. You could say, of all the people who fill out that volunteer form, what channel did they come to me from? Did they come from Twitter? Did they come from Facebook? Did they come from some other website? So that's one kind of basic setup for web analytics in general that I just wanted to make sure everyone hears, is that to set a goal, to match your business goal to the technology, and then monitor that and make changes. In terms of the real-time web, there's probably some more interesting things that can be done. Unfortunately, Google Analytics is a 24-hour delay. So for many of you, a 24-hour delay isn't acceptable for making decisions. It's probably too big a cycle. There's other tools. There's one called Woopra, which does real-time web analytics. And a way that might be used for observing what's happening in the world is you could see, as people arrive on your website in real time, what terms, for example, what terms are they looking for in Google or another search engine. So what that allows you to do is understand what is in someone's mind in their own words immediately before they show up on your website. So if you start to notice a trend of people looking for a particular kind of keyword all at one time coming to your website, that may be an early indicator, perhaps, that there's something interesting going on, that either you need to provide information for that, or maybe something interesting is going on that you're not yet aware of. So that's one piece. And that's internally, using your own website as a way, as a sensory organ for the web, understanding what are people thinking before they come to your website. There's external tools or external ways of understanding what's going on in the community. So we've talked a lot about Twitter so far today, and Twitter is a great place to find what people are thinking about. There's a way that you can use Twitter to look just at tweets, the little bits of information that people pump out into Twitter, organized just by geographic location. So I could say, I want to see all of the tweets that have been published within 10K of this hotel right now. For some of you, that may be a pretty beneficial thing to look at. There's always the standard social media traffic report. Burlington, Vermont, where I live, is pretty active on Twitter, and if there's an accident or something on the interstate, I usually find out on Twitter before anywhere else, because someone will have been driving on the interstate and they'll say there's an accident. If your agency or service is related to anything that could happen in that, on the highway or whatever, that's using a Twitter search that's been geocoded. That's the geek phrase for saying it's got a lat long and it's got a distance radius. You can look at that information and you can monitor it. And the downside then is you start to get all of the Twitter chatter from a particular town. You could basically be looking at what's all the Vancouver Twitter chatter look like, and there's going to be a lot of junk in there. And figuring out how to deal with that's a challenge. And that's a challenge that my business clients face, the ones who are interested in location marketing. And that's a challenge for you guys in emergency services, where if you're getting a lot of chatter, how do you filter that down into something meaningful? If you're seeing every conversation that's happening within a 10K radius, how do you figure out which one is the one where someone needs help, or whether it's an indicator of some event happening? So what you can do next is first you set up the geocode, so you can look for how to specifically get just that 10K radius, but you can add a keyword to it. So you could add things like traffic or accident or fire or any kind of word that you would normally key into that would alert you to something happening. And so sort of the point of thinking about the web in this way is social media is a great way to broadcast information, even though people have probably come up and said don't broadcast, you should engage or whatever. But it's a great way to get information out to the world. But it's also a great way to get information into your organization. You can use the web to listen. You can use web analytics and tools like a geocoded Twitter filter to listen to what's happening in your specific community via social media. And that ultimately will present an HR challenge for all of you, because it presents an HR challenge in the private sector as well. But learning how to parse all that information, learning how to filter it, identifying what are the sort of trigger words that you want to be aware of that are relevant to your organization's mission. And it's got to start from what is your objective, what is your mission, and know that first, and layer technology onto that second. It's not about, I want to use Twitter and I want to use Facebook. It's about solving whatever your business problem is. So primarily, I just want to end today, my part of it, by encouraging you to think about your objectives, think about using social media and the real-time web as an observation platform as much as an information distribution platform. And find technologies and techniques that match up with your specific mission. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm around all day. Take care.